And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon, and today I'm talking with Julian Harris. Now, Julian, thank you, by the way, for squeezing me in your calendar and showing up to be my guest on Experts Speak today.
Pleasure.
I'm glad to have him here. He's over in the London area, UK. I always love the accent. And Julian is he's a business coach, but he really brings a different perspective in it because of his background and things. So we're going to talk some really cool things to help you business owners and entrepreneurs to really think differently, to take your business and your life to the next level. So as we dive into that big deep end of the pool, Julian, tell me, how did you get doing what you're doing today?
Great question. And it's a long story, so I will try and be relatively brief. I want to take you back to when I was 14, 15, 16, growing up in Liverpool, in the UK, home of the Beatles, amongst other things.
There you go.
And I grew up in a very comfortable middle-class home. And the conversation around the dinner table was dominated by my dad.
Okay.
And he was a lawyer. I know there's a different distinction in the UK to the US, so we'll just say he was a lawyer. He absolutely loved his job. And the dinner table conversation was full of stories. And it gave him such a sense of purpose, and he had a passion about it and real fulfillment from his job. And then at the age of 15, 16, when it came time for me to think about what I wanted to study at university, well, maybe it was an absence of imagination on my part, or show me a 16-year-old that knows what they want to do in life, right?
Yeah, right.
So I thought, well, I'll do law. I'll study law as well. And so I became a lawyer, a slightly different type of lawyer to my dad. I was more focused on the intersection of law and commerce. And I went into, I call it in-house. So I worked in companies, in businesses. Sure. But from the get-go, I thought, I had this nagging doubt. Is this what I'm meant to be doing with my life? And I had, over the course of 20 years, more or less, I had several goes at trying to get out of the law.
Sure.
Most of them, apart from the last one, failed. And listen, that's not to say I hated my job. I absolutely didn't. There were plenty of great times in there. But I think along the way, I was always looking for that sense of purpose that I saw with my dad and his work. Yeah. And I never had that. I never had that with law. So then fast forward until about 5, 6 years ago, something like that, I was having a conversation with a business colleague of mine about my thinking. And he said, you should talk to my sister. She's a coach. She's just qualified as a coach. And, you know, she'd be really happy to talk to you. It took 2 conversations to blow my mind, to have me thinking in a completely different way about me and about myself. And I finally realized that actually coaching, that's what I want to do with my life. So you know, the last 5 years have been an incredible journey for me. And I coach business owners, I coach CEOs, senior leaders, on the subject of you know, how to be a better leader, how to get your teams performing better, and ultimately how to grow your business. And I'm pleased to say that sense of passion, purpose, fulfillment that I was looking for, I finally found.
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Julian, because so many business owners, I think, find themselves stuck in what I would call prison, right? You know, yes. A little bit about my story. Before I started my company, I was in prison for 2 years at a job I hated, because I think I was sitting there looking for that purpose. I was in a ministry I loved for 8 years, fulfilling that purpose, but I grew. They changed, and I found myself in a weird spot going, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs, we start something because it's fun, but we may lack that purpose. And I think what you found, and I want you to kind of expound on this, is the motivation, the passion, the drive we should have in business really comes from inside of us when we can connect that drive, that passion with a deeper inner sense of fulfillment, purpose, whatever. Is that right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I think about many of the clients I work with and have worked with, and they are really connected to the vision they have for their business. And many of them, as many kind of new businesses, startups, SMEs, they have a desire to change something about kind of their experience of the world, whether it's a new product, it's a kind of new service, and an idea they've had, and often it's for the greater good. And so, and I'm very fortunate to work with businesses like that. And you're right, the connection they have with the change they want to make in the world is what drives them, often through some very turbulent times.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that I was I was reading on your website or your bio or somewhere about how we think as entrepreneurs, and how do you coach people? Because as we come to running a business or whatever, a lot of us have that imposter syndrome, right? It's how we're talking to ourselves, how we're using our subconscious mind, and so many times, Julian, I just lay the cards out on the table, right? For a long time, I mean, I just pushed back on the whole subconscious mind because it was this Eastern philosophy, weird stuff. And what I found in the last few months really is, no, it's really cool when you understand how the brain works. But talking a little bit about how we talk to ourselves, the subconscious mind, how that affects everything. And then we'll go into how we talk to others and our teams and things. But let's talk about that mental game.
Yeah, and the two are intrinsically related. Like how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves informs how we manage others, how we lead others, how we work with others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the struggles? Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. I love the question. I love the question. And one of the things that when people ask me, how do I work, or what's the way you work? We, as human beings, we are conditioned by things that happen in the environment, by conversations that we have with our parents or our guardians or our teachers or people in authority. And that's kind of from a very, very young age, layers and layers and layers and layers. And that informs how we think about ourselves and how we think about the world. And so the work I do, the way I describe it is I help liberate people from the judgments that they make about themselves. Right? Because what happens when we work together is that my clients become clearer about themselves, clearer about the problem that they're tackling, clear about how to achieve the goal that they're looking to achieve. And what happens then is they become more confident.
Yeah.
Then they become more connected with themselves. And it's a really beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is. It is. Well, you just hit one of my favorite words. So I kind of live by 3 words. And I'm not sharing these with you. So this is really fun because you just hit one. So here they are in order: clarify, simplify, multiply. And they have to come in that order. And what you do is help people clarify their what they really want, and they're talking, get that clarity, because too many times it's as I talk with business owners and people I disciple and things, it's when we think in our head, it tends to be very cloudy.
Yes.
And so I get people to think on paper and ask good questions. I'm sure you're a great question asker, but you find that clarity. And then everything else starts to simplify it because you start gaining focus of what's really important and where I need to go. That's where multiplication. I mean, we all want growth.
That's right.
But we can't get it until we get clarity. Is that what you have found?
No, absolutely. You've summed it up beautifully, and I might use that. I might take that from you, Michael, and use it in my own work. No, I love that. I love that. And I've seen it with myself as well, of course, and I'm sure you have with yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're wrestling with a problem, and then, I work with my own coach, and I've had different ones over the years. And when he or she asks a question that gets me to think in a different way about myself or the way I'm. Okay. It's that insight.
Yeah.
An insight is a new way of thinking, and that's like a new connection we make in the brain, a new wiring in the brain, and then we can everything flows from that. I'm getting excited, knocking over the lamp here.
Absolutely. No, I think that's great. And you said a couple things that I want to dive into for my audience, because this is something that I teach and I preach all the time, is we all need coaches. Okay. I'm a marketing guy. Okay. I've been in marketing for 35 plus years, right? And I have 3 marketing coaches for my business because I'm too close to my business, right? I can look at your business, Julian, and piece of cake, I can figure that one out. My business is confusing because I'm too close to it. So we all need coaches, and that's part of what you do. But one of the values I find of a coach is they ask penetrating questions, and they're not rocket science questions many times, but it's a question. And to get a really good answer or solution, you need a good question.
Yes.
And that's part of what you bring to the table, is this outside perspective and good questions to help your clients just really think and go, oh, I never thought about it that way. Everything opens up. Do you find that happening over and over again?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. It's very difficult to ask yourself the questions that you need to ask. Because every one of us is wired in a certain way, right? We're coming back to those ingrained patterns of thinking, judgments that we make about ourselves, many of which we don't know are there until somebody points them out to us, or somebody asks a question which makes us think about the way we're thinking. So, no, I mean, listen, you're preaching to the converted.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about team and how entrepreneurs can really I think you termed it taking the leap, right? Pushing through our fears to embrace that purpose in life, because sometimes we entrepreneurs, I think most people are like me, right? I have these big audacious goals, and then I mean, as soon as I set the goal, I immediately get hit by that internal thinking, well, you can't do that, or who are you? How do we practically, what's a step somebody could take to just start moving in that direction to make a bigger impact?
Yeah. Another great question.
Thank you. I love doing podcasts because I get counsel.
Yeah. And we've all been there, haven't we? Where, as you say, we've set ourselves a massive goal and then thought, no, I can't do that. But so here's where this for me, when I understood this, was a real eye opener. And it's kind of the nature of human experience, right? So just bear with me now. Bear with me. And for anyone listening and watching, bear with me as well too, please. So I think there are 3 fundamental things at play here. Okay. One is, and I'm going to get a little bit spiritual now.
Okay, sure.
You only need to go into nature, into the forest, into the woods, whatever, to understand that we are a part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And whatever that is also a part of us too. So, you might call it God, you might call it universal energy, you might call it chi. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you might call it the Force.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And that's a part of all of us. One of the other principles at work here is consciousness. Every one of us, every human being is conscious. We're aware of our existence. And what happens is then the third thing is thinking, is thought. Our thoughts create our experience. And with thoughts come feelings, right? The mistake, if I can call it that so many of us, the trap that so many of us fall into, is that we think that our thoughts are true,
right,
are real. we believe them to be true. We get lost in our thinking all the time.
Yeah.
And with that, like, so to come back to your thought, I can't do that. Have you ever wondered about where do my thoughts come from?
Yeah.
Where do my thoughts go to? We don't control our thinking.
Yeah.
And there are thousands and thousands of thousands of thoughts flashing through our minds all day long, some of which we don't even realize are happening, and some of which we attach to, we hold on to. Right?
Yeah.
What happens, Michael? What happens beyond thought or before thought when we quieten our minds? That's when we have access to that kind of universality that I was talking about at the beginning of this little piece. That's the source of our wisdom.
Yeah.
That's the source of our connectedness to each other and to everything. That's the source of love. That's really all that we, as human beings, we're looking for, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's the thinking that takes us away from so have you ever been in the shower or walking in the woods and been wrestling with a problem?
Yeah.
And the answer comes to you.
Yeah.
That's for me, that's the universe talking to us right there.
Yep. It happened yesterday. Okay. So I had 20 minutes for our next call. I lay down on my floor. I like to rest in the afternoon, right? So I was just laying there thinking about one little quote issue, problem, challenge, or whatever. And the idea hit me, and I was like, that's it. And I mean, it's a simple thing, but I'd been noodling on this for a while. But it's when I stopped being active.
That's
and
right.
I took now. So let's go two things here.
Mm-hmm.
I use an acronym called T. Now I'm a coffee drinker. I love coffee. You're in the UK. You probably drink tea. I don't know. Tea.
I drink both. I love them both.
Okay. TEA.
Yeah.
Thinking. Emotions, actions.
Yes.
And
correct.
Any one can help change the other. So if you're feeling bad or sad, change your thinking, change what you're doing, go out in nature. And I think too many times we don't think about our thinking like you were talking about. And then the other thing is the quietness. What I have found is, again, meditation and all of that, I've pushed back on it because I'm like, I can't clear my head. I can't center down. I don't know how to do that because my brain's always working. And recently I was listening to a podcast or a thing, and they said, it's not necessarily clearing your mind of everything. It's focusing on maybe one thing, but it's stopping all the distractions and getting quiet. Still. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, be still and know that I'm God. And so it's stilling myself to go, okay, I'm going to spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, thinking about this one thing and just relaxing and seeing what God will bring to me, whatever. Wow. So for me, it's the meditation of not sitting with my legs crossed, because that really hurts, of just trying to get rid of everything, but it's focusing and then being still. Is that fair?
Yeah. I love that. And for me, there's a distinction which has really been really helpful for me, because I'm like, I want to meditate, and I have like I'm on off, and it's a bit frustrating. There's a distinction between meditation and being in a meditative state. The first one is a practice. The second one is a way of being.
Yes.
And for me, when I said earlier that this kind of understanding about the way all of us human beings operate was a real game changer, a real eye-opener, it's because I'm now able to realize when I'm lost in my thinking, right? When I'm attaching to a thought, and that allows me to quieten and kind of have that meditative way of being without the need to do a formal meditation practice.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And I think when people embrace that and understand it, it really brings that. The phrase I'm using more and more is my focus determines my future. What I'm focusing on is going to help me, right? And this act of being in a meditative state of being clear, going back to what you said, or having a good question, getting a good answer, thinking about my thinking, owning the emotions, and saying when I feel something, asking myself, is that true?
Yes.
And that's a great question, because
Yes.
many times what we find is, well, no, it's not. If somebody else has done it or is doing it, you can do it if you bring the right people around you and have the right. So, but what we need is somebody like you, Julian, who can help us stop talking to ourselves or maybe stop listening to ourselves and start talking to ourselves by having you ask us the right question. How do you work with somebody? Let's kind of pivot as we're coming to the end. But if somebody's out there going, this is interesting, you kind of attack this whole coaching thing from a little different angle, which I really like. What's the process of somebody sitting there and they reach out to you? What's like first step, second? What does that even look like for somebody to start that journey with you?
It's really straightforward. So if somebody's interested in working with me, we'll have a conversation. Okay. And so your audience can get in touch with me by email. So it's julian@juliankharris.co.uk. I have a kind of a landing page that they can look at as well, lonelyattetop.co.uk. That phrase will definitely resonate with some of your CEOs, your business owners out there. Yeah. lonelyattetop.co.uk. So we have a conversation, okay? And the idea is, let's see if I can help you. Yeah. Okay. And I say this to everybody when I'm talking to them for the first time. If I can help you, and you're good after that conversation, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm really happy. If you want to carry on working with me, and if we both think it's a right fit, we'll continue the conversation and we'll talk about what working together looks like. That's it, Michael. It's really straightforward.
I love that. And as y'all listening can tell, Julian comes from the world of high pressure sales techniques. So it's going to yeah, as we all laugh going, yeah, no. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about how you approach things, Julian. You've had a lot of experience, you've had a lot of life going on, but you're genuine. And you've experienced the impact that a coach asking you a few questions can really have to pivot your perspective in life. And that allowed you to find that inner purpose of says, this is what I want to do to help others to fulfill that and help you realize the angst that was going on inside of you, if I can use that word, right?
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you're not at total alignment with who you are, what you're doing, you just think there might be something else or something you're missing, reach out to Julian. I'm going to capture that email and lonelyattetop.co.uk. That's awesome. I'm going to put those in the show notes. So if you're out, if you're doing business or walking the dog or running or exercise, whatever, don't worry. Just go to the show notes and find those links and reach out and have a conversation with Julian. Just talk and see where you are. And you can just tell by his tone of voice and by how he does things. At the end of that call, you're going to know whether he's helped you or not, or what the next steps are, and you'll go from there. So. Is that fair, Julian? A fair next step?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, you've summarized it perfectly. You've obviously done this before, Michael.
I have. Well, I think so many times we're scared to take that next step because it's going to be a sales call. No, it's not. And and if I say no, if I do the call with you, Julian, and I say, okay, thanks, Julian, I should feel bad because I just took 45 minutes of your time. And the reality is that 45 minutes is where Julian gets to lay out to you his uniqueness and go, I've helped you. If I can help you in any way in 45 minutes, great. I have achieved my purpose in life. And when you put yourself in that perspective, I don't waste any time. And so you're not going to waste his time. You're going to grow. And so let me encourage you, go to the show notes, click it, email him, go to his website, have the conversation. It's going to help you. So Julian, you and I could talk for a long, long time. Okay, I've got a line of questions for you, but we'll save those for another day.
Let's do it, Michael. Maybe you can have me on again.
There you go. So thank you for being my guest, Julian Harris. You can probably the best way, email, it'll be in the show notes, or lonelyattetop.co.uk. and have a conversation to see how he can help you just really get alignment, have greater leadership, stop all those dumb thoughts in your head, and make a bigger impact in life. Julian, thank you so much for being my guest on Expert Speak today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Michael. I've had a lot of fun. Thank you.